Hey everybody, happy Friday. I look smaller today because I'm sitting down because my back is gone. Anyway, hope everybody's doing well and having a healthy, happy Friday. Maybe it was just too much excitement this week. It was a bonkers week, but let's get into it. This is going to be called, this is Friday Fire, the Friday Fire Show, talking about all the big things that are important this week, as well as, of course, bull market's not a bull market without some FUD. And here we go, Tether FUD. We'll talk about that too. So let's jump in. It's Friday FUD Show. Happy Friday. Crypto market still 2.31 trillion, volume 75 billion, which is pretty good. And Bitcoin just shy of 68K. And what else? Fear and greed. I forgot to look at fear and greed, so I don't even remember. Anyway, it's somewhere between 60 and 70, I'm pretty sure. And this is not financial advice. You can tell I'm slightly off my game. But shout out to Patreon too from Postbusters Fencing. I follow James here and on Patreon every day. Woohoo! Thank you so much for being part of the crew. Let's talk about what went down. This is the V-shaped recovery, which, guys, dipping a little bit again. Friday FUD and V for victory. This is on the left, Solana, and on the right, Bitcoin. They mirrored each other exactly, and so did the recovery, which has dipped a little bit again because there's more FUD out there in the cryptoverse. But rest assured, it's the weekend, and you know what the weekend means. Good stuff. And the other thing as well, there's two things. Shout out to Ivan as well. He used to always say, when Tether prints, buy, but also when there's Tether FUD, buy too. So shout out to everybody who got into the perp not too long ago. Now, that's enough of my face. Let's talk about this. The bull market Tether FUD. U.S. Treasury has considered sanctioning Tether from Wall Street Journal. Remember, the U.S. Treasury should be very grateful that Tether exists because they're the seventh largest buyer of bonds. Thank you, Linda, for coming. But this is crazy. And as usual, government and regulators like the SEC, perhaps they've lost their way. And shout out to Marty as well. He reshared Paolo's tweet. As we told the Wall Street Journal, there is no indication that Tether is under investigation. Wall Street Journal is regurgitating old noise, full stop. And Marty breaking Tether says they are not under any investigation. Wall Street Business just made up some FUD to manipulate markets. Perhaps there's always market manipulation. That's why I've made a career out of what I call running into burning buildings. And if you know me, that's what I do. And that's what I did this morning as well. Now, let's talk about stablecoins since you're on the subject. Here you can see Tether Dominance in green. It still is the clear leader in stablecoin transactions, although USDC is doing more transactions now, and some of the others too. These are kind of the micro nano transactions, very small dollar amounts, whereas Tether tends to be higher dollar denomination. But what's even more interesting is this. Who's stacking stablecoins? Holders of US treasuries, stablecoins versus top foreign holders. You can see Japan is number one. Kind of interesting. And down the bottom is Germany. So Germany's not too exposed there at all. And then you have stablecoins in green versus top holders of treasuries. So again, the US Treasury needs Tether more than they know. And hopefully they'll wake up to that one day soon as well. Also, back to Bitcoin. This is from Crypto Quant. They tweeted earlier today that they believe it's likely Bitcoin will be used as a currency in the year 2030. And then they were sharing a chart here about the hash rate, which is Bitcoin's mining difficulty, which reflects the intensity of competition amongst miners. Miners have been on a bit of a rebound. Thank you, Meatball. But still, the hash rate is extreme. It's up nearly 400% over the past 3 years. And in the old days, you could mine 50 Bitcoin with a simple, crappy old PC from 2009. And now you need an army of ASICs to be able to do the same thing. And a lot of other stuff happened this week. There was talk of Stripe getting back into stable coin infrastructure industry and so much more. So it was a very interesting week all around. We'll get into more of that later. Sadly, though, for the ETH bag holders, Ethereum hits multi-year low against Bitcoin, erasing all gains since April 2021. By the way, April 2021 was when the bull market was kicking off last cycle. Thank you, DBF430. And this is from Akiba Wright, from Leon Akiba Wright. And Ethereum has significantly underperformed Bitcoin over the year. So again, it's very important, as we always stress here, to be on the right horses at the right time. This is not Ethereum's run. This is again, older technology from older cycles. There's still a lot of the ETH maxes are extremely bullish on Ethereum. I haven't been myself, but that's just me. Now, this is another interesting chart as well. This is SOLADA. And what's super interesting about this, it used to cost 4 Solana to buy 1 Cardano at the beginning of this chart. Now it's 501 Cardano per Sol. That's a 200x reversal, or sorry, 2000x reversal, excuse me, how things change. So again, it must be painful to sometimes not be on the right horse and holding ones that are just lagging behind. But hopefully, well, I've done my best in trying to explain what faster horses are for many years. And if people choose to ignore it, that's okay. Now, we also had a very big event happen this week too. As part of the Friday Fire Show, we had a chain hit 9.4 million daily active users. I'm cold. Thank you so much. This is Solana. That is over 3 times the next closest player, which is Near Protocol at 3.3, and then Tron at 2.1. And again, you can see Cardano there at 27,000. Just for perspective, the active users on Solana is 366 times that of Cardano and 24 times that of Ethereum. But the market cap of Solana is a fraction of that of Ethereum. So if the cost per transaction, the cost per user, etc., the total economic value mean anything, well, it means something has to change in time. And that's why I'm still very bullish on Solana. In fact, speaking of TEV, which is total economic value, which is transaction fees plus MEV tips. You can see we hit another new all-time high for Solana. And again, a record in total economic activity, marking a significant milestone for the network. I must say, people thought Solana would never make it because the transactions are 0.0002 of a dollar, like a fraction of a penny. How can they make it up? Well, they make it up in a lot of volume. 50 million plus transactions, then you make it up, and that's how you get to this economic value. So that's all she wrote. EJ, Piper, and Vagabond, thank you so much for coming. Now, our other favorite proxy, crypto proxy, is MicroStrategy. And there was a lot of Coinbase bulls for quite some. MicroStrategy in gold is about to catch the market cap of Coinbase. It's just $3.9 billion away from overtaking Coinbase's market cap. Any day now, all we need is a little pump in Bitcoin price, and that'll go. In fact, today, which is super interesting, let me just check these numbers live. MicroStrategy was up when Bitcoin shed 2.3%. Very, very interesting. So the strength of this thing is incredible. And Michael Saylor is, I don't know if the word trolling is appropriate, but he said, hey, Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, who has done a great job, by the way. If you want to make the next $1 trillion from Microsoft, shareholders, call me. Boom. And this is not the first time that Michael Saylor has called out Microsoft, per my recollection. Not sure on that, etc. And while we're on the topic of MicroStrategy, I do want to shout out to, I did warn you, it's Friday Fire. Shout out to Kerrisdale Capital, another hedge fund that entered a $3 billion short on MicroStrategy. Allegedly, $3 billion has been widely published. I'm not too sure where they are now, but his face probably doesn't look as happy as it did back then. I'm sure it's very glum these days, but they got their faces ripped off. And I know he always does reports from, I guess, his mother's attic or somewhere. Anyway, shout out to Kerrisdale. And speaking of hedge funds too, this is also interesting. Why is it the hedge funds are going after my assets? Because, everybody, I go after the most hated assets. And they do the best. Historically, anyway. We'll see if that continues. But Tesla, I told you I'm on some painkillers now. Tesla and Exxon are the top hedge fund shorted stocks at the moment. And everybody hold each other's hands and a moment of silence for the hedge funds that got wrecked shorting Tesla this week. Let's get into that story. Tesla, even though it's been a long battle for us here, and you know I'm a Tesla bull, and it's been painful, but it hasn't actually. I've always been happy. You know, we had opportunities to buy Tesla at $104, $106, $120, $125, $131, $141, $156, $151, $160. We did a ton of stacking sub 160 over the last 22 months. And now, since the beginning of January 2023, Tesla's up 138%. So I know it's still way off its all-time highs, but now the market is beginning to see the value, and the cream, as I always say, is beginning to float to the top. So it's been a rough road, but it's been a great road to stack as well, especially as crypto is going nuts. And FSD improvement is scaling like crazy. This chart's a little bit tricky to read, so let me try and interpret it for you, but it shows you how FSD is improving dramatically. I have FSD full version in 2 cars. I was an FSD beta user, and I've witnessed the so-called what they call miles per critical intervention develop, MPCI, I think some people call it. But the rapid improvement shows that Tesla's FSD benefits from scaling laws, meaning as they collect more data and refine the software, it gets better faster. And a couple of things just to point out here, version 13 versus previous ones, that achieves 5 to 6 more miles, 5 to 6 times more miles, between needed interventions compared with earlier versions. On the earlier versions, like 12.4, and before that 12.3, and before that 12.1, and before that 11, we've seen huge progress. So let me try to break it down. Version 12.5 was 3 times over 12.4 compared to early 12.1 versus 12.5. It's 100x improvement. And again, V13 targets a 1000x improvement. And Elon on the earnings call, which is the most mind-blowing earnings call I've ever heard in my life, the amount of things they unveiled there and said were happening or already in existence melted my face. But the point of this is, they said on the call, FSD will be better than human drivers in Q2 of 2025. I believe it's already better. I am more confident, as I said, driving in Los Angeles and rush hour traffic in the Cybertruck with FSD 12.5 versus my driving myself. 12.5.5 is the version I'm on right now, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the richest man, who works harder than any man, just became richer as well. He made 26 billion yesterday, made more today, and he's now in the lead by about 60 billion to number 2 on the list. So shout out to Elon Musk. And again, the guy works his tail off. He doesn't need to, and he does, and he makes the world a better place. In fact, he also rescued the 2 astronauts safely back from space because another company couldn't. Now, another news too regarding Tesla Megapactory. They have a business called energy storage. I've written a lot about that and spoke a lot about it, but their new Shanghai facility is going to be 2 to 3 times bigger than Lathrope. Lathrope can do 20 gigawatt hours. This new puppy will be able to do 20 to 30 gigawatt hours. That'll take them to 50. And then the third factory that I'm sure they're planning to build next will take them up to 100 gigawatt hours. Remember, there's infinite demand for their products, and those products are selling at a 30.5% margin, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Wall Street analysts are trying to catch up with what the hell? How do we put these numbers in a little spreadsheet and catch up with this? And speaking of rescuing people from space, Boeing is literally blowing up in more ways than one. Not just their planes on the ground, but also satellite explodes in orbit, littering the space with debris. So that was the Intelsat 33E, and it was uninsured when it burst all of a sudden spontaneously into 20 pieces. So, that's Boeing. You heard me talk about that too a lot. Now, speaking of another AI name, remember Tesla's AGI, but this is Core AI. It makes the machines that pump out the LLMs, etc. Hey, Mr. Keyframe, thank you for coming. NVIDIA is up 900% since January 2023. I do believe Tesla will have an NVIDIA moment. This chart in about 2 years will look like this chart because they have so many tailwinds. And I've done the numbers. It's there. Now, what's also interesting about NVIDIA too, which is kind of mind-blowing, just to show you the value of AI, this is from TKL, the Kobesi letter. NVIDIA is now worth over 3.5 trillion. That means it's now larger than the total market cap of 5 of the G7 countries. NVIDIA is now also worth more than 4 times Italy's entire stock market and more than half of the entire Japanese stock market. And if NVIDIA were a stock market index, it would be the 6th largest index on the planet. It also makes up over 7.5%, I think, of the entire S&P 500 market cap. Again, be in the winning names because they change your life, okay? Also, sadly, for us who are already sleep deprived, New York Stock Exchange is extending to 22 hours per day. And I urge everybody, by the way, get a brokerage that has extended hours trading, things like Robinhood, because when things happen after hours, like earnings, etc., you could have bought Tesla at 205, 210, I think, last week. And then now it's at what, 269? Exactly. $269.19. I think it was at 220. Then I shot to 269. Anyway, the point is, having after hours access is very, very important, particularly for my trade alerts on Patreon. Just pencil that down and make sure you have access. And that means we'll be going pretty much from 1:30 a.m. Eastern time, which my time here is, what's that, 11:30 p.m. up until 11, no, let me see. Is that right? Yeah, up until 11:30 p.m. Eastern time, which will be 8:30 p.m. my time, which means I'll be able to go out for dinner at least, maybe. Anyhow, that's the stock exchange news. And remember, when crypto comes, they're trying to compete with crypto. Crypto's already 24/7, so the TradFi world is trying to catch up. And another news too, gold is still soaring as fiat is going to zero. This is seen as a hedge against inflation and populism. And gold has not slowed down and Bitcoin has not caught up. Yes, Bitcoin had a great last 2 weeks or so in the market. Bitcoin's now 66,800. But earlier today, by the way, Bitcoin was at nearly 69K. So it's fallen off because of the Tether FUD. But remember, it's the weekend and we pump at the weekends. So that's gold. Bitcoin will follow. Now, why is gold going up? It's because fiat is going down, and the Chinese People's Bank of China, continues the cut. They continue to cut rates, and it's a substantial cut of 25 basis points. Shout out to Econometrics for this beautiful step chart as well. And other stuff we need to know about other currencies too, because this is a big part of what impacts the markets, Bitcoin, etc. This is from Robin Brooks. China makes it very clear that its main weapon in response to more TTs, you can read it yourself, is large upfront Yuan depreciation. And that's a game changer after the election. If T wins, the dollar yen is heading to 120. Is not heading to 120, but to 200. It's about 150 right now. And there's no way they'll be able to control that. And this election will have a massive market impact on foreign exchange and fiat around the world. Another thing that's having an impact on fiat around the world is as well Indonesia joining BRICS. And I know a lot of people say, oh, BRICS is nothing. It's a bunch of scam countries. Nobody will ever touch it. Well, Indonesia is a massive country. I think in terms of population, it's up there, number 6 or number 8. And Indonesia started the process of becoming BRICS in a sign of growing influence for this group that positioned itself as an alternative to the US-led global order. So between Bitcoin and BRICS and many other currencies like the yuan, the dollar has its challengers out there. At the end of the day, this is why we Bitcoin, because it's going to smoke them all, ladies and gentlemen. Big thank you to T&D Tesla, Sean Donnelly. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. I will sign off from here. Sorry for sitting down and being a little bit off my game, but thank you all for coming. I'll be back tomorrow morning recapping the week. Happy Friday. Wow. What a crazy week it's been. And ignore the FUD. I still contend this will be a good weekend for crypto, like usual. Thanks all. Have a good night.